All right, 23 minutes before the top of the hour here on Morning Live. So, as we mentioned, political parties gear up for 5 years of local government coalitions. ANC veteran Dr Mavuso Msimang says South Africa does not need coalitions, but a strong single centre to govern effectively, contending against the notion that service delivery improves when led by coalitions. He says it cannot be demonstrated that there is better efficiency under coalitions because this year 14 African countries were listed as having coalition governments. Mavuso says research has shown that coalition politics and coalition governments have been characterised by instability and frequent breakups, except in a few European countries. ANC veteran Dr Mavuso Msimang joins us now to talk a little bit more about these views. Good to have you. Always such a pleasure for having you here as a guest on Morning Live.
Thank you very much, Leah, and I'm sorry that I'm at a place where I can't improve my image. I do hope that people see me or will hear my voice.
We actually can see you beautifully and that beautiful view behind you. So wherever you are, I hope you are revitalising and resetting for the year ahead. But it's just so good to have you. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks so much, Leah. I wrote that piece in the Sunday Times because I was responding to a statement that had been made by one of the opinion makers to the effect that currently South Africa has reached a stage where coalitions are a better form of managing, of running government than the single party arrangement. Of course, this is unresearched. What we all know is that there was a very low voter turnout during the last elections. 47% of registered voters cared to turn up to vote. So it's the lowest since the beginning of democracy. Now, that accounts to a very large extent for why we had no party emerged in the end, to a very large extent. I would say research that's been done by many, MoneyWeb, the IEC itself, shows that those who did not want to vote stayed away because of personal, impediments, like they were at work, they were not at the voter registration station when the voting, on the day the voting took place, or they were just too busy, or there were some snags with the registration process. There is a section, a percentage of people who didn't vote because of that. Others said they were fed up with corruption and poor service delivery. You had more others who had just lost interest because of their circumstances. And this reflected mostly people in the research, people in informal settlements, in townships, in people who were unemployed. Those just had lost. A large percentage of those had no interest in going to vote. Then you had also people who had no real political alignment in this regard. So there were reasons why there was a low turnout. There is nothing to suggest that by not going to vote, they were hoping that there would be coalitions which would deliver better governance. Yeah. That was my argument.
Yeah, and it's an interesting argument because, I mean, I wonder, I'm not sure that was at the back of any voter's mind thinking, well, I'm not going to go out so there can be coalitions. Perhaps maybe on a minority front. I mean, can we give that argument, not necessarily for the bigger parties, but for smaller parties who strategically actually went in, and voters did that in municipalities where you saw smaller parties coming together and becoming the dominant party there. Do you think that may have been a strategy? But other than that, I mean, as you gave the reasons there, those would be more the primary reasons for why the voter turnout and the results were the way they were.
Once the voters found themselves in these circumstances, they had to make a plan, coalesce, and hopefully either among themselves or with larger parties, and this is the problem which we can discuss now, in order to cross the 50% line and become the voting party, the ruling party. If it was minority interest, there would have to be the interest is not just to be in government, it's to protect their interests. They want to be in the municipality because there are certain issues that are paramount for them. So I still don't really accept the argument that coalitions, even for small parties, are necessary. There is any convenience in them in setting themselves up like that. So what this has happened with the result of the formation of coalitions, which we have to live with and do the best we can. I hope not for the future. This is a reflection of the failure of democracy. Democracy requires that a decisive representative party must go into, must take a position, must win the elections and deliver services that the majority of the constituents, and they are not defined by diversity, whether they are white or black, rich or poor, and so on. In the end, those factors do matter, especially issues of the economy. But it's a failure of democracy when people can no longer rely on the people they elect to deliver a government. They have no way of making the pieces that they elect for different reasons, to hope that these different reasons, which are not defined, which are not, do not reflect common interests, constitute a better model for running the country. As long as the agency for governing the country is a political party, you ought to have a political party that has the ability to take in all the different, the diverse things that people talk about. The ANC was able to do that at a certain time. You could be, sorry to use these words, the colored or Indian or white, you were almost guaranteed a seat or two, and this reflects the population dynamics in the cabinet or in senior positions. It's disappearing because people are comfortable with roping in the likes, if it's blacks, and this is a betrayal of democracy.
Yeah. I suppose, I mean, we could argue both sides. It's either a betrayal or democracy in terms of how government is failing to serve the people, because that, at the end of the day, is the crux of where we're at right now. But it is a triumph in democracy in terms of votes are being counted and people are having their say in terms of where their vote wants to go. But the big problem is the fact that I don't think that South Africans care much about who is leading. I think they care about their service delivery and efficient leadership, which is how we got here in the first place, is that where they live, their circumstances are clearly not showing that whoever has been elected into power is doing a good job and they are looking elsewhere. And I think that that's where the problem comes in. But I want to ask you, in terms of coalition governments over the last 5 years, what has been your sort of interpretation and look at them? I mean, would you say they've been successful? I mean, I have my opinions and I think so do other people, but what do you think about them so far?
There is absolutely no research, no empirical evidence available to us that suggests that they have been successful. This is not to say they cannot be, but the reality historically, whether you're looking at the metros in Nelson Mandela Bay, in Tshwane, in Joburg, they all collapsed after a single party had failed to win the majority. These things were cobbled together because not because there were common interests. They did this. Let's just be brutally frank about it. To oust an ANC that had shown very many signs of corruption, that had been totally negligent, not fulfilled its promises to the electorate, to its constituency, to the people, and thought if we came together we might do better. But there was no commonality of interest among them. Hence, in Nelson Mandela Bay, the DA coalition with the UDM just collapsed like that. over personality issues and things like that. So I don't dismiss coalitions. They become a necessity, but they do require that people sit together and say, this is what we have to offer, respectively, the population. Let's get together. Your strength as DA will be to deliver this kind of thing, good management, if that's what they have. And so-and-so is strong in poor communities where, there must be something in that brings these things together for the good of the people they serve. We really had successful, seriously speaking, the Western Cape, I think at a certain time, as a coalition too, it didn't work too greatly. There is really no justification without research for us to claim that coalitions are a better form of running this country.
You also bring up the conclusion that if 2016 metro councils were not only stable, they delivered better services and cleaner governments than when those municipalities were under dominant ANC-led administration. But you also argue that if improvement did take place, it should be attributed to more competent councillors or provincial workers. So given the service delivery history that has been failing over the years in this country, isn't it easy to attribute change, if any, to changes that have been brought about by coalitions?
No. The changes have come about because a better party delivered better services. A more committed party did not waste its time and people's resources on corruption. A single party could have gone into Nelson Mandela Bay, secured a majority and not needed a coalition. Perhaps they would have done a better job of running the municipality. You know what I mean? There is nothing that is the combination of one or two parties that actually attracts, that makes them better placed to deliver a service. The thing that needs to be, political parties ought to take comfort in the fact that these trends, these tendencies of not going to vote are fluid. If there was better service delivery, and that's been shown in studies, people would go back and vote for a party of their choice, whichever one it is that they believe will deliver to the collective, to the community, which is really becoming less and less defined by race, but is definitely defined by economic position. So the issue is good service delivery by a party that commands the interest that represents, the interest of a community in a given place is much better than having to cobble something together and hope that because that takes them across the line, it will provide a better service.
You do bring up an interesting point, and you've said it a few times during the interview as well in your analysis. You concur with a view by certain analysts that say coalitions are causing division rather than promoting national unity, and that parties from the ANC to the DA to the EFF to the Patriotic Alliance are happy to draw their support from racial power bases. But the country needs, or what the country needs, is a new centre premised on ensuring that the interests of all are catered for and that the unity of the nation is preserved. That's to quote a piece from your analysis yesterday. What would the character of that centre be? What would it look like?
It would be like the ANC, that used to be the ANC which fought against divisions based on ethnicity and other things and said, South Africa. You know, when Archbishop Tutu talked about a rainbow nation, this was aspirational. He was talking about a South Africa in which everybody who is in it will have a place in the state. It's not that it is there, but there is every reason for all of us to strive to build a South African community, whatever its racial and other origins. Nothing says a party would not be able to do that. The ANC actually demonstrated that. 1994, it got, 60%, whatever, a high percentage of the vote, and it came from a whole range of South African people, regardless of their ethnic and other diversities. It improved this vote to a point where it secured a two-thirds majority. This was a two-thirds of really all people, perhaps predominantly African. Historically, that would be what it is. But people had faith that this organization, this party, wished to build a united South Africa. And really, such a party has a place in South Africa. It is the only one that will, I'm not saying the only the ANC, a party with this kind of objective is the party that will build this nation, that will build a future strong.
Dr. Msimang, just as a parting shot, and it's interesting to hear how you answer, because you speak very much so about the ANC in the past. You speak about a party that used to be the party that brought the country together, the party that it could do it, it used to, not very forward-looking. Have you lost faith in the ANC as it stands today, that could be the party that actually is the party to take South Africa forward, or should we be looking elsewhere? And I speak to you as an active member and person who is devoted to the ANC.
Well, I believe that the ANC has to work very, very hard to earn the confidence, the trust of the people again. At the present rate, it's not very promising. You know, you have to work hard to win the confidence of the people. You cannot keep in your top ranks people who are tainted with corruption. You can't keep people who really, at a certain time, officially, the country was handed over to the Guptas. The corruption was official. That passed, and you got to a point where Zuma, the Guptas were gone, but corruption didn't go. This doesn't augur well, unless the ANC, and it is able to do that if it decides to, unless it takes a firm stand against its own corruption, it will not go back to what happened in the past. And the indications are not too good, at the moment. But I remain a member of the ANC in the hope that wherever we sit with others, we say, guys, remove a lot of the bunch of people who sit on the NEC who are corrupt, and you know them. Have the courage to remove this. Have more trust in the people than in the so-called factions, because they've got constituency. People have liked Cyril Ramaphosa. I hope they continue to. But they will only like him and hope he continues to be president of South Africa if he is not working in the company of corrupt people.
All right, we've got to leave it there. Always a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time. Article and analysis out. It was over the weekend in Sunday newspaper. ANC veteran Dr Mavuso Msimang contending that South Africa does not need coalitions, but it rather needs a single political centre with a vision to unite and not utilise the already existing divisions, but promote national unity. All right, that's where we have to leave it for.